and I think we're just gonna dive right into it. Do you think? Is this gonna be?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So
I'm ready to dive.
you're ready. All right. So do you want to take control of this whole thing here? Cause we have some interesting materials here, for
Very
sure.
interesting.
Very
So,
interesting materials.
we're talking about GDQ stuff today, right now.
Yes, there is a ban that occurred in Games Done Quick, and in the lore, we have another person who's been exiled, and yeah, so we got some notes here, and we can see the highlights, and this is a paste bin by what's this fucker's name?
JohnCarls.
JohnCarls. I've never heard of JohnCarls before ever.
Me neither.
Apparently he's part of some well, not anymore, but apparently he was part of some podcasts. So, taking out some competition here, I guess. But yeah, so Brooke, would you like to kind of take the reins here? What's going on?
Okay, so let's see. This is a paste spin that JohnCarls never wanted to write. So essentially, there's been some harassment claims at GDQ made by several women in the speedrunning community, and let's dive in.
So yeah,
before he dives into the details,
yeah,
let's make it clear that he is not claiming innocence when it comes to this issue.
Yeah, this is definitely some very interesting materials here, without a doubt. So if you haven't heard of this yet, then this is definitely something I would recommend you buckle up for, because we're gonna go through some bumpy roads because this is getting good. So yeah, what would you like to? You just want to read the highlighted text?
Yeah,
Because this paste bin. So yeah, JohnCarls wrote this paste bin, and it's like it's a lot of rambling. So we just kind of like highlighted some of the key moments here, and we're gonna go over that. Yeah. So at the start here, you can kind of he's trying to situationally put himself in a particular kind of headspace, right? But what that really means is he's basically kind of the introductory segment is just pure damage control. This is something that like he would send people and then hope that they don't see anything else. Which is like, this is why they always say there's two sides to a story and all that kind of stuff. But this is stuff that like, you have to really keep in mind the wording. So, like, for example, like, I want to be in the right mind space to communicate everything. Not saying this for sympathy, yeah. Like, it's interesting. This kind of wording is interesting. So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and he uses language like in this line here. I made repeatedly bad judgment decisions, specifically in the realm of being too forward. So, like, I don't know what you expect too forward to be, but, like, not so clear there. But he goes into some more detail, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, so, okay, so let me give my perspective here, because we went over this while we were setting up. We went over this, I think, 2 days ago. So I read this, and again, I didn't know who JohnCarls was. I don't know anything about any of this situation other than this paste bin at the time. So I'm reading this, and it seems like, oh, well, maybe this person kind of understands where they went wrong. Maybe they're kind of like, trying to begin their own redemption arc, so to speak. And that's how they're writing it. But, that's it's definitely not exactly how things seem to have gone. Yeah, so we can see here, this is like not sending unsolicited dick pics to people, so that's good. That's good, I think.
That's a very good start.
That's a good start. I was not groping people or following them around. Okay, cool.
He also claims that none of this occurred at GDQ. An interesting claim, considering, the people who, reported him were at GDQ, and, like, he was also at GDQ, so I find the claim of, like, that it didn't take place at GDQ a bit disingenuous.
Especially given some other details we'll get into later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically, JohnCarls is kind of setting himself up in a position right now where he's trying to kind of like provide any and all possible methods of escaping blame, while simultaneously not saying that he's doing that, and simultaneously saying that he's explicitly not doing that. But like, it's very clear that this is what he's doing. This paste spin is damage control, because like there's two ways to go about an apology. One, damage control, and then two, an apology. And this is not an apology. This is damage control. So you have to understand that. But yeah, so one thing here is that's very interesting is that he always got consent, but like that's, you know, consent is not necessarily like a blanket. It's like, oh, do you consent? And then I consent, and then that means you can just flood me with whatever you want at that point. Like, consent isn't just an open blanket for do whatever you want. Like, if someone consents to something, they consent to that specific thing. So if you ask for consent for something and then do something else, that's not a consensual interaction. It's just kind of like a trick or like deceitful. So we get into the point here, where, so the accusation is from multiple, women, and he's trying to basically, in the damage control, pin everything onto one person that he thinks he can kind of manipulate the social zeitgeist into going against. And then, like, I guess that is just a symbolic representative of all the women that come forward, because not all of them are public, I think. Some of them just did it in private and all that kind of stuff, so he doesn't even really know who they all are. So this is him, like, the rest of this paste spin, I believe, is him just kind of, really, I hesitate to use the term attacking, but, like, attacking this person for no reason.
One thing I noticed is, like, he doesn't really apologize to any other people besides this girl he calls Wendy. I love this line though. Let's call them Wendy, and then in brackets, their name is not Wendy.
It's so good. It's so good.
So the situation between them is they were friends between, you know, speedrunning, and I don't know, I guess they were friends for a little while. And then in this line he says, he offered to send a sexy non-dick picture of myself, and then she consented. I then asked if she would want to send something back, and then she sent a picture of a bikini. So I guess like the girl just like took a picture of a bikini and then sent it to him. I'm not sure what that wording really is, but
he is, again, it's just making the situation all about one person that he can kind of attempt to kind of socially construct the narrative against. So, first of all, what is a sexy non-dick picture? Like, okay, what is this fascination that straight men have with their own penises? Why do they think that their dicks are sexy by default? I got news for you, buddy. Really, like, honestly, not many people are interested in that stuff. Like, as far as sexiness goes, the dick is probably, like, the last on the list of things you want to send. If your goal is to send a sexy photograph, I'm just saying. So, with that in mind, a sexy, non-dick picture of me. Like, imagine, like, wording that. Like, imagine, like, having to specify, like, I want to send you something sexy, but don't worry, it's not my genitals. Like, imagine having to specify that, because, like, it's obvious that in this particular instance, like, otherwise the person would just assume, oh, sexy picture means a dick, you know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting that you have to, like, specify that it's a non-dick picture. I find that hilarious. And then also I asked if she wanted to send something back, and she sent a picture in a bikini. I mean, there's no context here. We don't, like, a bikini isn't even inherently sexual or anything, like, so it's kind of like trying to equate things, and it's just like, it's not really possible to equate because there's just not enough context and not enough substance, and it's written like this on purpose, because again, this is damage control, this is not an apology, this is damage control. So, yeah.
He says he continues to like dip his toes into the water, and then he was confused by the validations of consent, and then he continued, and he kind of pushed that line a bit. And then I guess they stopped talking for a bit because she felt like pretty uncomfortable, and she made a public post about how she was not going to go to GDQ because she felt unsafe around somebody. And then he took it upon himself to message her about this person that she felt unsafe about, and then he later figured out that it was about himself. So,
Oops.
oops.
Oops. Oops, indeed.
I guess they both ended up going to GDQ anyways.
They what?
And they both ended up going
They
to
what?
GDQ anyways.
Say that again?
I said they both
Both. Okay.
went to GDQ.
Yeah. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I mean, it's a little curious here. A lot of these details are just so non-necessary. You know what I mean? Like, none of this has to do with the fact that you're a creeper. And if anything, it really just makes you look like more of a creeper. Because if multiple women are coming out against you, why are you giving your life story in regards to, like, one person? Like, this is like, oh, so a bunch of people are accusing me of sexual assault? Let me write a novel about my, like, what? Like, what kind of response is this? I really don't understand. Can we get to the part where we get to the tricking?
The tricking. You mean like how he was tricked into a conversation with her?
So good. This is one of my
He
favorite
was
parts.
tricked
This is
into
one of my
it.
favorite fucking parts. Oh my god. Fucking a mutual friend tricked us into chatting by telling me she wanted to talk. That's so funny. The terminology of tricked is just hilarious because let's just look at this pastebin on itself, right? A mutual friend tricked us into chatting. Like, tricked us. It's just like, really, like, again, it's damage control. It's pinning the blame on other people. You know what I mean? Oh, this person tricked me. You know, I have no responsibility here. You know what I mean? So, and then I took the opportunity to apologize for about 90 minutes. And so, first of all, I don't know about you. I've apologized a few times in my life. Many times, even. You know, maybe people are familiar with some of these apologies. I don't know if I've ever apologized for something for 90 minutes straight. And now, would I say sexual harassment is worthy of a 90-minute apology? I mean, if anything is, I would say that's up there. But I mean, like, what do you discuss in 90 minutes? Like, how do you apologize for 90 minutes? Because if this is his understanding of an apology, like this pastebin, then I presume that conversation was just him, like, giving his life story and trying to excuse everything. Because that's what it looks like here. Because all he's doing is not, taking, he's not, like, really acknowledging he's doing anything wrong. He's just writing his life story. Like, dude, we don't really care about your fucking autobiography. Like, we just want you to stop being cringe. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming that this 90-minute conversation was probably had him crying and explaining that it's not his fault. That's what it seems like it would be. What do you think, Brooke?
Well, also the pastebin. He does say he's in the wrong, yeah, but then he also like does the thing where like he like kind of brings up all the excuses and like you know what I mean. So, it's hard to like kind of reconcile that with like his actions, you know.
Of course, 100%. Yeah, so it's just like, and he writes it here, like, just mindset and background. It's just like again, we don't care. Like, we get it. Like, on it, like, if you're writing something like this, having your maybe background is maybe a little bit more appropriate. But when you're directly apologizing to someone who you've been severely inappropriate around, I mean, like, explaining your entire life history is just like, you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can just, like, and again, it doesn't take 90 minutes. You can just say, like, I, kind of sheltered growing up, I'm kind of weird, and, I'm awkward sometimes, and I just never really learned better, and, like, that doesn't take 90 minutes to do. You know what I mean? Like, that takes, like, 10. Like, 10 at most. So I'm really just unsure. I'm very unsure of really just all of this. This is just so strange, the strange materials.
I don't know. It is absurd how much he like attempts to apologize just to the girl he names Wendy when there's so many other women that like could be reading this and they're just like, completely ignored.
Yeah.
And, like,
again, this
he
whole
doesn't really
pastebin
care
is
too
about
much
one
about them.
person, and it's just like That's not appropriate. If you want to make a paste bin about that one person, that one story, like maybe make another paste bin and don't put it on your overall general apology. Just words of advice going forward if JohnCarls is someone that Google searches his name and then finds this video. So, hello. But just, some words of advice going forward. This damage control is not the way to. The mindset going into an apology is not, how do I mitigate the fall? It's, how do I make amends for my mistake? So just, that's how it works. And then we have some interesting stuff here. So basically, they go into, like, future Games Done Quick events. And how he's being a noble man and trying to avoid this person to make sure that they're not uncomfortable or whatever. And so this is an interesting part. Friends were alerting me to where she was so that I could avoid running into her. So I really am curious. I would love some more substance on this, but because I'm really curious. Like, what does this mean exactly? Like, alerting me? Like, so is it like is JohnCarls, like, in the hotel room and then, like, texting, like, fucking whatever the fuck? And it's like, hey, I want to go to the practice room. Is you-know-who there? And then, like, the phone buzzes like 6 minutes later, and then it's like a response with like, "Coast's clear, dude!" And then like he just like runs to the practice room. Like, what does that mean? Like,
And then he
friends,
finds the door another way.
yeah, like friends were fucking alerting me. Like, seriously, I mean, like it sounds noble, but like when you actually try to think about like the substance here, like it just seems a little bizarre. And it like I highly doubt that they had like a text network of like I highly doubt this happened. And if it did, I mean, I want more information because that sounds very interesting.
Must have had like friends scout out like in front of him to make sure he didn't like bump into him in the hallway.
Yeah, like it's interesting. And then he kind of like flips it on its head after this and kind of says, any time that we were in a similar situation, it was her fault. You know what I mean? So he kind of like pre-adds like this whole like, oh, we have this network of texting to make like, just making it look like he was trying. And maybe he was trying, maybe he was. But either way, like after this, like he just kind of pins the blame solely on her. And it's just like, it's a little ridiculous. It's a little ridiculous. So it's a little ridiculous. And again, like this is little weasel words here. Little weasel words, like, oh, I do appreciate that she did not attempt to talk to me. Like, this is added at the end after you just, like, had a bunch of sentences describing how, like, she was all around you. You know what I mean? So it's just, like, again, weasel words. Because, like, this is for, like, the JohnCarls fan to go, like, oh, well, she was around him and, he did his best. But, at least, like, that's what this is for. You know what I mean? And I keep repeating that, but it's just such an important thing to keep in mind, I think.
The last kind of like third of the paste bin is kind of talking directly towards like his viewers and like what he wants to do going forward and how he appreciates that like this happened so that he can become a better person and a better man and like that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I don't know. It's kind of odd. It's kind of strange. How do you feel about this, Andrea?
Again, it's damage control. Like I get it. Like the saying, I want to be a better person is good at the end of an apology, but saying that with all of this, you know what I mean? It's just he's using that particular phrasing and terminology in ways to express himself, like to make it seem like he's more genuine than he actually is. And maybe this is genuine, so I will give maybe a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this whole pastement is genuine, and maybe he thinks this is like actually how you apologize. But like, I don't know, because like it just seems like, given the amount of inconsistencies, the inaccuracies, and just all the language being used, I find this difficult to buy as completely accidental. You know what I mean?
A lot of the language is like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, like, I consider myself a feminist, and I want to respect and lift up women the best I can with my life. Like, it seems a bit, like, grandiose. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it seems hard to, like, like the between the difference between like the start and the end is just kind of a lot between like the harassment claims and then diving into this kind of like I'm a feminist and I want my stream to be LGBT friendly, and I don't really understand what this has to do with like LGBT friendly streams. So I mean,
Again, it's just throwing out those like I'm a good person points. 100% just that. This is like, again, this is a pastebin written to reassure the community and to tell everyone that, you know, he's a good person and to not look into this any further, essentially. And again, like these actual lessons here, like actually writing this is a good start, but it's just like this is not good enough. You know what I mean? It's just not good enough. You can't just apologize and then like in the middle of this kind of like weird character assassination post. You know what I mean? It's just like if you're going to apologize, you can't assassinate someone's character at the same time.
Assassinate.
No, I mean like for real, like it's just a little ridiculous, you know? But wait. There's more. There's a sequel. Shall we get into the sequel?
Yeah, let's go.
I'm already in there. But wait, there's more? Alright, so we're at the sequel now. So this is a pastebin written by the aforementioned Wendy. And goes into some interesting details. I feel like we've been drowning on a little bit about this. A lot of this pastebin kind of reaffirms a lot of what I was thinking on the initial read through, and kind of like what stances we've been taking. So like when we say things like it's damage control, that's basically what this pastebin is kind of it's just reaffirming an additional evidence that it's damage control. So we're not going to really go through all of this. I do recommend reading all the pastebins just if you want a complete story. But again, like this pastebin's really just like a fierce destruction of just all that garbage, and it's just like it's just really good.
Yeah. If you want, we could start at the purple above the red. When we start getting into like the stuff he doesn't really talk about in the bin.
Yeah.
And how she kind of like shines some light on some additional details.
Yeah.
Into their relationship, and she provides some screenshots that we can look into as well.
But yeah, I mean, like, so one thing is obviously we've already read this, so we can kind of summarize. Is apparently this woman works in like a pool area or whatever, and was just wearing a bikini as part of work. And JohnCarls knew this and pressured her into sending a live selfie, knowing that she was wearing a bikini, and that kind of like is not similar to, oh, well, I sent a sexy non-dick photo and she replied with a bikini pic. Ooh. Like, it's not, you know, it doesn't work like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work like that. And it's really funny because, like, a lot of the language here is just really funny, especially this. He's been inappropriate with so many women, he can't actually narrow it down. Like, he doesn't know who the other people who are speaking out against him are because there's just so fucking many. You know what I mean? And it's just, like, the fact that that's a thing is just, it's really funny. It's really funny. And then I just want to, like, specify, women who say no are not a challenge. They don't want you. Very important. Because I feel like a lot of straight men just don't understand this. Having had straight men in my DMs like on a nearly daily basis for like a year now, they really don't understand that. That's just something that's foreign language to them for the most part. And so this also goes into detail about how Wendy reported him way sooner and specifically asked not for him to be banned, to give him a chance to redeem himself. And that was like, I guess, that was at SGDQ 2018, right? So, and then he just got banned. So it's obvious that like he knew that he was being a creeper, and he knew he was on thin ice and kept doing the same shit over and over and over again until the actual consequence happened, which just proves more conclusively that this is complete damage control and he doesn't really actually care. And maybe he does care now. Maybe the consequences actually affected him, and maybe like it actually worked, and maybe he actually knows what he did wrong. But I mean, until I see some sort of more information that's an additional pastebin, and if there is one, feel free to send me the link and we'll do a follow-up, you know? But like as it stands right now, to my knowledge, I don't consider him having any sort of epiphany or lesson to be factual, you know?
From my guessing here, like when he got that message about how he was on thin ice, he kind of took that as a way to just like go towards other women instead.
Yeah,
So
instead of, oh, well, I can't attack this one anymore. I've used up all my cringe on this woman, so let's just go to woman number 2. Hey, you want to see a sexy non-dick photo? Because this, okay, this is the straight man horny on the internet mindset. It's like you just go from woman to woman to woman, like just begging for sexual attention, and eventually, like, maybe I guess one of them will say, yeah, sure, why not? You know, and it's like, and it's not out of like, you know, genuine interest. I can tell you this much because, like, again, I have straight men begging me for sexual attention on a near daily basis, and sometimes I think to myself, you know what? Let's just engage, because why not? It might be interesting. I've had straight men like who are super horny, like, and I've like, you know, made them take quizzes, you know, about communism before I send them any photographs in response. Like, that stuff is fun, you know? So but like the point is, like, if someone does really kind of, you know, consent, so to speak, chances are they're doing it because they think you're pathetic. So I just want to, just so you know, just so that that's everyone encompassing is aware of this knowledge. There you go. Do you have any comments, Brooke?
No, I don't. That sums it up, really.
It sums it up. Yeah, like, again, I don't want to read all of this because a lot of this is just like, I don't want to spend too long bullying the guy. And I think we've gotten really most of the information here. This is just a super in-depth kind of response that just shows that literally I think everything JohnCarls said was like fucking just either completely fabricated or very cringe. And then I just want to go over this part where the tiny towel. Yeah, we need to discuss the tiny towel. So we needed to take another 5 minutes out of our day to discuss the tiny towel. So again, when you heard the phrase sexy non-dick photograph, what did you think? Right? Like, maybe someone like posing shirtless, you know, like, hey now, like maybe someone like, like doing this or whatever, but no. Like, it's just so good.
Did I expect the photo to be nude with only a tiny towel covering his dick? No.
Like, literally, what on planet fucking Earth, honestly? Like, what on planet fucking Earth? Who uses sexy, non-dick photograph to describe completely naked with a napkin on your dick? Like, who does that? Nobody does that! You are the first person to ever do that. Congratulations.
I also want to like point out how so the premise of sending this picture is that he wanted her to give their opinion on whether it was a good photo to send to other women for the purpose of dating. So like as a premise, like that's not a good way to like show interest in like the person you're talking to.
Yeah, again, it's just trying to like, it's getting that consent. You know what I mean? Because that's all men are after. They're after the consent. And of course they think you can't reverse consent, right? So like, they're after that consent. So it's always framing things in a way that so that they can get you to consent, and then that's where they throw the shit all over you. You know what I mean? So it's like, do you consent to a non-dick photograph? You know, and it's like, I mean, yeah, sure. Because like, non-dick photograph, you don't think, like, you know what I mean? Like, why? Who on planet Earth would think a non-dick photograph would literally just be a naked photo with like the dick blurbed out? You know what I mean? Like, nobody would think that. No human on planet Earth would ever consider that like genuinely understood in the English language. So this is just absurd. And it's just like stuff like that is just, my God.
I love this line too. As far as I'm aware, I am not the sole recipient of that photo.
Exactly. And then let's get into another. This is where it gets. This is where we get to the point where you go from creepy to sexual predator. In my opinion, this is where the line is crossed. So again, weasel words, non-dick photograph. you can again. I wouldn't say that it's allowed, but you can maybe write that off to just being plain fucking dumb as a sack of shit. But this shit is not stupidity. Later, he informed me via unsolicited, non-consensual photograph that he was masturbating to my photo, zoomed in on the best parts. The picture is a screen cap of a Pornhub window, on the left which reads, "Supermodel fucked by photographer at casting." On the right is my zoomed-in picture with his nude leg propped up on the bottom right of the frame.
That's quite a description.
Again, this is where we cross the line from weird fucking cringe lord to sexual predator. This is sexual predator territory. This is sexual predator territory. And, again, like, God bless Wendy here. Can you post her shit in the chat? Just, everyone should follow this person. Like, because, like, God bless her for not posting this photograph, because I would have posted this. If I had this photograph at my disposal, I would have posted it, because honestly, this sounds amazing. So I'm just saying, like, she's a better person than myself by a long shot. So I really, I don't, like, again, there's more evidence here, but like I don't want to go into all this much. There's also a really part here. Our 90-minute convo is actually closer to 5 hours. Oh my god. Like, so again, if you thought apologizing for 90 minutes was a little bit excessive, like, I'm thinking here, right? I thought 90 minutes was like an exaggeration in his like favor. You know, like, oh, I was apologizing for a long time or whatever. That's what I thought. But no, 90 minutes was like an understatement because he was actually that ridiculous. You know what I mean? It was actually that fucking ridiculous. And it's just like, that's funny. It's just, this is hilarious. Like, I can't believe this person is trying to get away with this. And then we have another part here that's very curious. Where there's like apparently something that happened at SGDQ 2018 where he kind of like just grabs her arm for no reason at kind of like a party or something and just like makes conversation, which is just like, newsflash, if a woman is very, very afraid of you touching her and afraid of you sexually abusing her, I would recommend in the future not to touch that woman. Just you know, throwing that out there as a possible option in the future. Just don't do that. Do you have anything to say? I don't want to leave you out of here, Brooke.
She does mention that she did not feel unsafe. So she did say she could probably kick his ass or something. So
Okay, yeah.
Just to point that out.
Yeah, so unsafe is, I guess, not necessarily the best word. Uncomfortable is probably a better word.
Yeah.
Like JohnCarls does not seem like the most physically fit individual in reference to like being able to rape someone. So it's more than likely that you know, obviously her safety wasn't in danger. It was more so like, who the fuck is this creeper? Like, get the fuck away from me, gross, you know? So, and that's, you know, again, that's really funny. And it's just like, it's the fact that he has several accusers and still is trying to do that pace spin where it's just all on her is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like quite the evisceration, so.
It's an evisceration. I highly recommend you read this pace spin on your own time because it's just fun to read. This is worst case scenario fun to read. So, do you have anything else to say about the whole subject?
No, I mean, I hope he takes this as a chance to like form his redemption arc.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, redemption arcs are, you know, like, anyone, in my opinion, can be redeemed. Well, maybe not anyone. Maybe, like, you know, Elliot Abrams, for example, can't be redeemed. But there's a few people out there that I think can be redeemed. And so if you're, like, just a cringe lord, basically, I think you can just stop being a cringe lord. And, you know, maybe it'll take a while for people to accept the fact that you're not a cringe lord anymore. But, like, it's not about that. It's about being a better person. It's about actually believing and not being a cringelord. Because if you're only not being a cringelord for social capital and because you want to be popular, then newsflash, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You should be not a cringelord for the sake of not being a cringelord, you know? And so I personally...
People can see through that. Like, they can see through all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Like, you're not that good at it, so, like, I don't know. You'll always slip up eventually.
Yeah, for sure. And so there's some more interesting materials here. Because this guy was a part of a podcast, there was an interesting discussion about this podcast. And let me get this up here. Yeah. Okay. This is the thread. So there's an interesting discussion about this podcast. Because the podcast is now over. Well, indefinite hiatus. So, and there's some very interesting materials in this thread. Would you like to take the reins here?
I mean, there's some interesting stuff here, so, what do we have here? We have, another podcaster, like, putting a bold comment saying, "Bring back TFS." And, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. What do you see here?
This comment, 8 points. This is very important. Let me zoom in. 8 points on this comment, so keep this in mind. 8 people, bare minimum, decided this comment is worthy of my support, and I upvote it. So, this person is literally saying, oh yeah, this person got banned by GDQ by, it basically just reducing everything down to drama. Got banned from GDQ due to drama, and then says this: none of this takes away from the fact that he's the wittiest man on the planet, and that the Frame Savers is an incredibly good podcast. Now, again, I'm not someone that necessarily believes in lack of nuance, but like, to say this immediately after the scoop drops is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, imagine how the victim of this person's sexual harassment feels when reading another prominent person in the community say that the person who abused me is the wittiest man on the planet and the podcast is awesome, and then see 8 people in the community agree with that. Personally, as someone who's been in a situation where I've been sexually assaulted, seeing people, talk up the victim or the perpetrator and say how great they are, that shit is fucking horrifying, okay? So, like, this is not okay. This is not... If you think that, don't write that, okay? That's not okay. That's just not okay, alright?